c'est pas mal, il a dit la même chose.
C'est pas prévu du tout que j'intervienne.
All right, we are back, as promised, to take stock of the market. I have with me Comat, represented by Mathieu Daubin, its chair, and vice chair Michel Braffman. Hello, Michel. For UCAMAT, of course, representing brokers, we have Mathieu Berrurier, you're the chairman of UCAMAT, and Rosa Seabra, you're the treasurer of UCAMAT. So we'll talk about aviation as well, but first the market figures. Looking at Mathieu for 52 slides in 3 minutes. Yes, thank you, Cécile. I realized that the figures are very far away, so I've made some cheat sheets, and they're also projected behind you. But so I'm going to read. That's the usual exercise, the presentation, the French market figures. So am I going through my slides correctly here? Yes. Starting first with marine aviation transport set, the market in 2024 had 2.4 billion euros in turnover. That's a mixed growth because there's an exchange effect between the euro and dollars, but there's growth, 1.7%, and then you can see the split between marine and aviation on the next few slides. This growth of 2.4 billion is segmented as follows between the four main components of our market. Hull insurance, which is still the number one segment in MAT insurance in France. Cargo transported with 37.2%, then aviation and space. I'll get back to the details of that for marine and aviation, but first I wanted to show you the MAT set, a pie that is has been growing for 4 years in a row now. So now, Cécile, if you agree, well, on the marine side, when presenting figures, we're talking about direct business, acceptance France and outside France. The 2.4 billion, that's what the French market companies underwrote, 2.4 billion. If you comment on the statistics, you do that mostly based on what the companies and their French branches only did in France, because some French market companies also consolidated their figures from abroad. The whole set for France in the marine business, we still have 665 million euros for hulls and cargo. You can see the figure 786. So as you can see on the slide, this is a market that grew very strongly, 10% for hulls, 3% for cargo, so 6% overall. As you know, this growth is related with several factors. First of all, tariff increases over several years, 22, 23, 24. Second factor, the war risk premiums. The geopolitical context collected a large number of premiums. And maybe the strongest item, that's a sign of the French market's attractiveness, where we were able to grow the business with all operators finding new business on the French market. The consequence of our attractiveness, when a market is growing, that attracts new capital gets invested in new capacity, and so we have a cycle that is going down, but you all know that. Maybe a word of context so that then we can have a discussion together, Mathieu, about the maritime environment. Maritime transport, as you know, is the backbone of global trade. In these last few years, especially in 2024, we had several concerns. The first one illustrated here is geopolitics. You heard that this morning with the talk by Thomas Gomard. The geopolitical environment is fairly fraught in the Black Sea, the Red Sea, Bab el-Mandeb, Suez, Hormuz in the future. This is an environment in which we can be proud to have been extremely resilient. We've always been able to offer war risk cover and to offer freedom of transport for cargo despite war risk. That's a main concern. The other concern is economic. You saw that. There's a short-term concern with the cycle, tariffs, protectionism, but over the longer term, you can see that's the 4 Ds that economists refer to. There's 1D is deglobalization, there's demographics going down, then the effects of decarbonization, and the fourth one that I forget, the 4th D is, yes, digitalization, which also has a long-term impact. Economically, we feel at COMAT, which is shared with Ayumi, we feel that the market was very bullish after COVID, and now maybe we are facing a downward market. Downwards not just because the underlying insured goods is going down, but also going down because of extremely fierce competition. That's for the marine insurance environment. Technical results. So you would say, in terms of results, how much does that mean? Very soon you'll see the publication made by France Assureurs every year, published I think in June or July. Here you've got results for Ayumi, starting with hulls. You know that marine insurance is 39 billion. Hull insurance in the world is 9 billion. Hull insurance in France is 665 million. That's the 5th largest market. The hull market went through an extraordinary year in 2024. You know that there was a record in terms of shipbuilding. We insure 44,000 vessels. Values are increasing. Losses were low. There were some war risk losses, but one of the biggest issues, the Dali, the collision between that container ship with a bridge in Baltimore Harbor. If you look at the illustration, we've had 3 years of extremely good fee recovery. 21, 22, 23 have ratios of 60%, whereas 2024 we have 70% ratios. You may say 60% looks very profitable, but let me remind you that to these 60% you add the overheads, which are the commissions, distribution and all that, 30 basis points, so you would get 90 to 95. We can commend that. The whole insurance has clawed back the margins that it needed to pay this type of major loss, war risk and issues like the Dali. That's for hull insurance. For cargo, still 39 billion worldwide, 22 billion for cargo, France 783 million. That makes it the 7th largest market for cargo. We tend to look at cargo. We try to illustrate it with this curve at the bottom left, where you can see, on the one hand, statistics for world trade from the WTO in value and volume, and we've tried to show a correlation between premiums collected and these values and volume. And you can see that there's a sort of parallel in the lines. I can't really see it from here, but between red and blue, there's been a lot of catch-up between premiums and values after a very low cycle for several years. We were finally able to have a strong recovery, so the average in Europe was 60%. And it's likely that these last few years, the European average has been slightly below 60%. But to that, you should also add 25 to 35 percentage points of overheads and distribution costs to have a common ratio. So once again here, a fairly positive comment in terms of market recovery, a turnaround that had been necessary after very difficult years. It was necessary because we are not here to cover frequency, but to cover major losses that are geopolitical, natural catastrophes, or collisions and crashes. That was a quick reminder about the statistics on the market. Mathieu, I don't know whether you want to comment before I move on. Yes, maybe just one comment. The reason why I didn't come last year was that each time I'm invited to a discussion with Mathieu, and he says it all, and I've got nothing left to say. Mathieu, that was perfect, excellent presentation. I'm really happy. And I'm even less well served than you as a moderator. But yes, as brokers, we can only commend the market for its results. Very well commented on by Mathieu. The premiums are going up. Results are good. Only good things. Our viewpoint is always the same. Let's keep making progress. Let's keep growing this market together. It's little known, as I said in this video. It's the 6th or 7th largest global market, whether you're talking about hulls or cargo. 6th or 7th largest in the world. There aren't that many sectors of business in the French economy where we can boast such a position. And I don't think we're good enough at expressing it, although this event is the best illustration of the ramp-up of this market, its position with every one of you present here today. So we need to keep building on that, especially since results are good. So when results are good, we brokers are all going to rush in to bring you a lot of business so that you can underwrite as much as we can bring. That's a quick comment. Maybe I'll make more. Why not talk about aviation, Michel? Yes, gladly. I'll take the clicker. Thank you, sir. On the aviation side, figures that came out of the France Assureurs survey. There we combine all branches. We make a big package without any distinctions. We can see small growth in premiums. It's hardly significant. It's less than 1%. What you need to take away is that the French market accounts for about less than 600 million euros in premiums in all its components. Now, our analysis needs to be based on each specialty because trends differ. They can be completely contradictory depending on the various specialties. Rosa is going to remind you what these specialties are if you don't have them all in mind. Well, within the aviation branch, you've got 4 specialty segments. First of all, airlines. Secondly, OEMs, manufacturers, then general aviation, as you can see. And the 4th one is space. Airlines, well, it's self-explanatory. Manufacturers, that also brings together repairs, products, airports as well. General aviation, eventually these are the aircraft that are not covered by airlines. So you'll have light aircraft, ultralights, drones, all aircraft under 50 seats overall. And then space, of course. When it comes to figures, you can see, well, I can't see anything from here, so it's lucky that I revised beforehand. So you can see general aviation is the only branch that has grown among specialities. It's still the smallest one on the French market, about 17%, but its growth is enough to slightly more than offset the decline in airlines and manufacturers, what we call aerospace in our jargon. Growth or stabilization in premium levels is mostly due to general aviation, and Rosa will tell you more about general aviation on the next few slides. Now, coming back to our market to get some perspective, we can't just stay Franco-French. It's essential to adopt a global view of our entire business. If we are to give an overall market for the global market, the takeaway figure is 8 billion. Now, how is that split in the various branches? That's what we illustrate here. You'll see that most of that is general aviation. It's not the same as in France at all. As Rosa will explain, it's related to the contribution, the major contribution from one country, the US. The US itself accounts for more than half, 60% of general aviation premiums. The best known sector in aviation is airlines. that account in terms of gross premiums yearly a bit less than $2 billion. And then you've got the aerospace specialty with airports. That is roughly the same volume. And then the specialty we talked about this morning, but that's not in France Assureurs statistics, because as Christophe Graber said this morning, we are not active in war risk for aviation. This market has become significant, whereas for years it had been marginal with hardly 100 million in premiums, but in 2024 it accounted for roughly $1 billion. That's a major shift that you need to remember. About airlines insurance, what we can see on the global market for premiums and losses, claims, you can see an erosion in premium levels and some volatility remaining on losses. So here, these are the results for the calendar year 2024, and it won't have escaped your notice that at the beginning of the year, a major loss happened on the market, and it casts a considerable shadow on the possibility of having positive results on the global market in the aviation sector. As for marine, the loss ratio is not enough to understand whether a market is going to be profitable or not. To that, you need to add all fees and costs, and so that is reflected in a combined ratio that should be less than 100%, and it's not a given every year based on the experience of previous years, as you can observe.
Les tendances de l'industrie, donc.
Regarding the big trends, the underlying, I mean, that's our raw material. For the year 2024, the risk as measured in terms of accidents per million of hours of flight was slightly above that of previous years. In fact, it's the highest in the 5 last years, but it's still low in air transport, in spite of these big accidents that make the headlines, and it's only fair that they should make the headlines. But it's still, we find that air transport is very safe. Other big trend, and that is the increase in the number of passengers. It was up 10% in 2024 compared to 2023. And the trend is keeping up, even if it is slowing down according to latest forecasts. But this is very uneven. It's not in Europe and North America. It's mostly Asia where the largest growth is found. And then for the other aspects, the decarbonization trajectory, according to the plans of ICAO, there's a roadmap to achieve carbon neutrality. I won't go into the details of that chart, but that target should be met leaning on 4 big pillars. I mean, one, improved technology, new aircraft, new modes of propulsion, new models being designed by Boeing or Airbus, where you have a 20% improvement in efficiency compared to previous generations of engines. And then you have the second category, and that is not as big, but still significant effort is being made on optimizing operations in air navigation. And we discussed this in the previous roundtable. The big development is the availability of alternative fuels, SAFs, which are made using non-carbon sources. That's a big challenge, a societal challenge, because the sources of decarbonized electricity, I mean, there are big challenges ahead. And then one thing, which is an adjustment variable, how to capture and how to sink carbon. How do you see the year 2025? I mean, you can see a trend there. we had a good performance for 2024. What does 2025 look like? Well, looking at the aviation, the air transport market, regarding the claims in H1, it's not looking too good, is it? But we'll have to see how things pan out. This market, of course, is volatile, that we know. The year 2025 with a high-profile risk. We don't know them all. I mean, we'll have to find the results of investigations, but depending on the results, this can mean that there might be a higher level of claims that are accepted. Regarding aircraft manufacturers and airports, what you have here is a chart which shows you the outstanding years in terms of claims, rather an outlying year that came along with higher prices. Even though the number of claims came down to more acceptable levels, something more acceptable for the market, but you had high numbers of claims. There was a trough, and now it can happen again. And of course, this industry has its own volatility as a result. But having said that, we're looking at outstanding fundamentals because the demand in terms of new aircraft is high. There are orders the order books are saturated. In fact, manufacturers are not in a position to deliver in time. I mean, that's a big issue for an aircraft manufacturer. The delay in one part, part of a seat, that can delay the delivery of the whole plane. And if a part is missing, and aircraft manufacturers are under great pressure, and of course their suppliers are under pressure to stick to the allotted times. But of course, the efforts on decarbonization will continue, but that means that we are looking for a sustained demand. But of course, the big question is, will aircraft manufacturers be able to deliver? Now I'll give the floor to Rosa on the global situation. Here you have the level of premiums paid worldwide. America accounts for 60% of all the premiums, 2 out of the 3 billion altogether. So Europe is the second largest region in terms of premiums. You can see this on the chart. And France is number one in Europe for general aviation. Now, this chart looks at the delivery of general aviation aircraft. So we're talking about small aircraft. I don't know if you can see if you can read there, but you have 4 types of engines. You have those with piston engines, jet engines, helicopters. That's on the way up, whereas jets are stable. Sorry, I meant turboprop engines, but jet engines are stable. So you can have, the pretty good outlook. But of course, there is, an influence of the regulatory authorities. Yes, the premiums may vary based on policies or decisions by regulatory bodies. Certain regions may be affected. And in Africa, there can be big swings, but there can be restrictions also it is the case being applied in Europe. What about the space industry? I mean, the space industry is this is on the decline because the year 2023 was a disaster in terms of claims. In fact, and you could have it could get even worse this year for 2024. I mean, we don't know. I mean, 2023 was a disaster. 2024 looks better, but of course we haven't got the final numbers in. But the big question mark is about premiums. They remain rather low and going down, even though, and that's, you don't see it on the chart, but even though there's been an increase in rates because there was less capacity available. More than half the capacity has vanished over the past 18 months after these major claims. It meant that some of that market has, I mean, some of the players have disappeared. Now, the air industry, the space industry is facing major challenges of its own. Of course, it's a result of industrial or manufacturing activity, but and that is a result of what are known as mega constellations. Everybody knows Starlink, but this has destabilized not just operators on the market, but also on satellite manufacturing when you have major movements of consolidations and M&As. 2 words about the commissions. Yes, where it is the COMAT is a committee, not a commission. I mean, COMAT has a number of subcommittees: the space, the property, the hull committee, etc. Anyway, you should attend these committees. We exist simply because we have working people together, both in the insurers committees, and there are also committees for brokers. I'll keep it short because we are looking forward to our evening at Interallié. We have a list of all the work that we do. You can have access to the slides and you can see what it is that we do. We've been working hard on additional clauses for what is known as cargo, and we did a special work for the Red Sea for the container ships, and that, of course, what happened yesterday, of course, is going to might change the deal. We'll be considering special clauses for the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, you can well imagine that this is bound to happen. Another piece of work was conducted by another committee, the committee on hull, and that is to have a single committee for hull cases. You have many operators working together, and there's been a lot of harmonizing work, and I'd like to thank those who worked on that, because I certainly hope that this model can be used on other markets. And then here we listed well, there are new clauses. I mean, you will find this on the various websites. Well, there's the air committees. I mean, they're very much very active. All players in Paris are involved. I won't go through all the subjects, but for both the air and space industries, you have to remember that this work is very much active because all players are concerned. Of course, it's essential to have a collective, intelligent approach to improve the market in Paris, to have a better offer, and also to involve our brokers, our importers, so that together we can come up with solutions. And again, Rosa will give you her feedback. Yes, this is collaboration between the various players, the brokers of the air market, and that has been benefiting everyone. Well, Luc Aman, can you tell us about the work so far? And at Lucamat, we don't necessarily make the best soups in old pots, but I've been reappointed. I don't know if this bodes well or not, to run COMAT. We have other projects for the future. We want to develop that market here at Parimat, and especially their specialty fields. I mean, the air transport is, of course, one of them. We discussed this today as well. And Mathieu was mentioned the specialties, the specialty market with very well-defined windows. And of course, after what happened on Saturday night, of course, you can expect significant developments. In any case, all these committees are remaining very active indeed. And given time, I will try to bring within Lucamat all the active parties so that they can work with our insurer friends, both for air and sea transport. So it's true, we'll be heading to Interallié pretty soon. What's your conclusion? Well, of course, the world is shaken by crises. Nonetheless, this remains a buoyant and dynamic market because the sea air transport markets go hand in hand with insurance. I mean, no ship sails without insurance and no plane flies without insurance. But nonetheless, there's no fatality, as it were. An insurance product is there to cover risks, and we're all excited by our jobs, by what our industry does, and this passion, this excitement should help draw in new talents at Lucamat, at COMAT, amongst brokers, amongst insurers. So you should share the passion. Well, Gauthier, well, I can only join Mathieu in his message, and I would share this optimism for our specialty fields. We, of course, in France, we have recognized skill. I mean, we are amongst the best in the world. I mean, if not the best, but we can certainly be proud of the skills that are present on the French market, both amongst insurers and indeed brokers. And regarding the growth outlook, I'll just like to remind you what Christophe Grammer said this morning. The fact that we might also be taking on war risk on the French market is a promising development. Right now, this is missing, but it means there's room for growth and to develop our trades. Rosa, well, I'm delighted to be at Lucamat and representing the air transport industry on the French market, and I certainly hope we can help the Paris market to grow in the future with the development of these branches. Mathieu, well, it's essential to speak jointly. I mean, not just insurers. I mean, Parimat is there to bring together all these talents within the same movement, as it were. Of course, the latest developments will be cause for comments in the days to come. I believe that everyone, including our policyholders, will be concerned by the new developments, especially as regards the specialty markets. But I would like to conclude with by introducing the new chair of Planet CSCA, that's the Union of French Brokers, Jean-François Cousin. He's with us. If Jean-François could stand up so everybody can see him, please make sure you meet Jean-François this evening. He's well worth knowing. He was appointed 3 weeks ago, and he is taking a keen interest in our business. So many thanks, Jean-François, for coming tonight. Well, many thanks to all of you. This brings this session to an end. I think Pascal is ready to leap on stage. I believe our speakers certainly deserve a round of applause. And I was about to say, now, in under an hour, you're expected at the Cercle de l'Union Interalliée. There's a dress code. I mean, this is not casual dress. You have to wear a formal dress code. You should just walk there. It's nice weather, but not too hot. So Pascal will say a few words. But anyway, we meet tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and you can come earlier for coffee. Yes, Marilou will provide a new kind of entertainment. You know about the dress code. I'd like to thank Generali and the other sponsors, and there'll be flowers there as well. Thank you.
Il fallait que je sois un peu... voilà.
Non mais je voulais bondir pour éviter de passer trop de temps. Voilà,
non, mais c'était très bien. Mais si tu bondis, il faut que je me dise, tu vois,
j'ai pas de problème.